What's going on, LinkedIn? So tonight is episode 88
88.
and
Yeah.
social media as well. We're not just on LinkedIn, but I think this topic tonight applies to a lot of individuals on LinkedIn because I know on my profile there's been a lot of interest in marketing within Asia and also how the discussion of how marketing in the East is different from the West because you have a different audience and a different culture. And when it comes to marketing, you have to think about all those things. So I run a digital marketing agency here in the US, headquartered in the Midwest. And then we have a special guest tonight, Walter Lim, who's back from previous episodes. And he's going to talk about his digital agency, Cooler Insights, out in the East, and the differences in perspective when it comes to marketing for these two cultures. So I'll let Walter hop in here. And Walter, introduce yourself again and tell us a little about Cooler
Hey.
Insight.
Hi. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Depends on which part of the world you're in. I'm Walter. I'm founder of Cooler Insights. We are a content-focused agency, so we help brands tell their stories and build their presence online. We focus on various platforms from their website to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Sometimes we help clients with their YouTube as well, and we also do videos. A lot of our focus is really helping brands to grow their presence, especially I would say challenger brands, those who are in a pretty good place in the marketplace. They can be, growing quite rapidly. They could be regional businesses or even global businesses, but they want to kind of create that presence online. So that's what we do. And Cool Insights, we work with all different verticals, different industries, from hotels to hospitals, retail to preschools, childcare, and I also do quite a fair amount of training. So I would say about half of my work is in training and consulting, coaching. The other half will be on the agency side of things. So very glad
Yeah, and
to join you guys on the Bottoms Up. And yeah, Jeremy.
I was trained by you. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, all right. Yes. On LinkedIn, yeah, which is our
Yes.
favorite
So
social network.
my,
Yeah.
my journey my journey on LinkedIn began with meeting Walter. So yeah, thank you.
That's
Forever
awesome.
grateful for that. Yeah.
He has been, yeah, he has been an amazing student, and he has surpassed me as well.
No, you'll always be my teacher. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let's talk marketing tonight. So let's start with when it comes to marketing, right? When it comes to the East and the West, let's talk a little about the audience. What have you found to be the biggest difference in the way content is digested in Asia versus the way content is consumed in the US?
Okay.
Oh,
If I may.
yeah,
Oh,
sure,
great.
Jeremy.
Walter.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll just go very quickly and just lay the land. I think when we talk about the East, well, the biggest market, of course, is China, and because I've been there, lived there, and worked there before, my heart, a part of me, always is there. So I watch out things on what's happening in China. I think to answer your question, I will point out two very obvious things. Number one, really, is language. Yeah, language difference. It's quite obvious. And for the East, of course, we do know that there is two forms of Chinese when it comes to language and how it's consumed, right? Traditional Chinese and simplified Chinese. Yeah, Audrey. So that's one very basic but very huge difference. The second one really is how the media is consumed in terms of the hardware, right? A lot of people in Asia may not have a desktop, but they all have a mobile phone, which means it's 24/7. They can. Audrey, can you hear you? Can you hear us? Hello. Whoa. Okay, I think
He went out.
he dropped out. Yeah.
Yep.
So I was saying, it's the way it's consumed in terms of hardware. Yeah. Mobile. Most of us even have two mobile phones, right? So that's the way I think it's primarily very different from the West. So maybe Walter, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I think in terms of content types, videos certainly are the way to go in the East, at least in Southeast Asia, where we're at. So we try and turn every post, even it's say a static image, we try and add a little bit of animation, a bit of movement, text flying in and out, because we find that just adding that little bit of movement helps a lot more than just a static image. I mean, people do read. So we have a dual kind of strategy. The SEO side of things, you do have some audiences. They will search for a particular keyword on Google. They'll go to your article, long form, and then they'll read it. So that could help from an SEO perspective. But from a social media perspective, we are seeing a lot more short videos, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, even 10-second videos, catching more attention. We find that showing how things work is useful here in the East. And I think the other thing is also making it really very easy to digest. So it has to be very in your face kind of. Cannot we cannot be too
Don't be shy.
creative. Cannot use metaphors or too creative ways of expressing it lah. So it has to be quite bottom line driven. So people have to know what is in it, what is it for. I mean, one of the, okay, like let's say when we do posts or ads, right, for our clients, say on Facebook, Instagram, if they're interested, they may just say PM me, please PM me, private message me straight away. I don't see a lot of people really commenting as much as say Western audiences. I think the Western audiences tend to comment more. They tend to write more, and the Eastern audiences prefer to message. I'm not sure if this is true across, but the mode of communication seems to be more shorter. Maybe because I don't know whether it could be a language issue, but they prefer to take it offline or to do messaging. I mean, instant messaging is humongous here. And if we go into the generations, like the younger generation, the Gen Zs, for example, I've got an 18-year-old at home. It's always messaging. They do have Instagram. They do have some of them do have TikTok, but they do spend a lot more time using even the private messaging apps.
So
Functions.
is TikTok still popular in Asia? Is it taking off
Very.
Yep.
It
as well?
is. It's
Okay.
huge. Yeah,
It
and
is.
it's also transcending age groups. We're seeing it creep up. So I think the very young preteens and teens are kind of moving even away from TikTok. They're going towards more private channels like Discord and others, right? I mean, so that's what we're seeing.
No, that's great insight because I think when you talk about TikTok, it's very similar to the US. But at the same time, I think the newer generation, they are so savvy with these tools and they're so used to social profiles and stuff. Now I am seeing a shift in the social media culture where,
Yes.
we're back to more, I think even with the pandemic accelerating, back to more privacy,
Yes.
secured, among their small groups, the community forming versus the large social media platform and just, So it's kind of interesting that you brought that up in Asia as well. And so is in Asia, is this still popular, the whole funnel marketing strategies?
Yes. I think that's an interesting topic. I find that the I'm not sure. I mean, I think that it has to be a multi-pronged approach where you have to look at more towards getting multiple touch points out there. So we want to influence our prospects, whether is it if they're searching for a keyword, they find your website, or they happen to see an ad in front of them on Instagram or Facebook or on LinkedIn, or they see a particular thought-provoking post that you put up or they happen to watch your videos on YouTube. I'm not so sure. I'm personally, I'm not so bullish about emails. I think emails are important for certain markets, but it has to be combined with various other strategies. So one of the things that definitely has to be done here is retargeting or remarketing. So many brands have done that here in Singapore, and certainly, I would imagine to some extent in Asia as well, because the frequency is important. The Having the multiple touch points is important so that people can they can remember your brand. Emails, of course, to some extent, but I don't really see emails as a very major form of communication here in Asia, except for those who are really, really low down the funnel. We're talking about very, very close relationship. Either they're close to conversion or they've already been converted. But using emails to kind of trigger that relationship, I don't really see that as being as important as, say, having a consistent social media presence. So it's kind of a loop in a way. So your social media also in some way helps to also feed to that loop of trying to get people to consistently remember your brand. And I see a lot of that here as well.
Okay, so we definitely, I think the West and the East, there's a lot of similarities. I think, it comes down to we're human. So human
Yes.
nature, I think we're drawn the same way, right? We're either on
Yes.
social media to
Yeah.
be educated, encouraged, or entertained. You know,
Yes.
and I think that's where we live. We're living in the space of is the mobile world, and a lot of us
Yes.
are on these platforms. So the person that wins is the person that are consistently putting content out there, engaging with others, building relationships.
Yes.
But let's talk about the audience. Why is it so challenging? Because I hear this quite a bit from Western companies to enter into the Asian market. And that's not just China. I hear they have a
Yep.
hard time entering into even Singapore and some of the other open markets in Asia. It seemed like it's always challenging for an American-based company to penetrate those markets successfully. And you've seen it. A lot of influencers have tried to. They built a huge presence in the U.S., but as soon as they try to enter into Asia, they're not as popular. They don't take off. Let's talk about that for a bit.
Yeah. I feel that perhaps Asia is quite different from what it was like in the past. Certainly, even traditionally, what some would call developing economies in Asia are no longer developing. If we look at Southeast Asia, for example, like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, the market is very savvy. So they're online. They are familiar with digital. They're familiar with the tools. Many of them have gone through training. They learn from there's so many free resources online, right? So they apply it to their own marketing, and so they feel that they also know. So Asians are trying to kind of apply what they know. They want to build their own brands, and of course, I'm not sure whether COVID-19 has some impact on it or not. I mean, for sure, I see that divide between the East and the West seems to have grown somewhat. There's a new form of I don't know whether you can call it ethnic wokeism. I'm not sure. That seems to have arisen. Um, of course, I mean, in the US, you have Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate. Some of that has also come over to this part of the world. So I guess people are a bit more wary of accepting Western or foreign, what they perceive as foreign influences lah. And I think that the Asian businesses, the Asian entrepreneurs, they're starting to create they're starting to feel that, hey, actually I should also know as well as, say, companies in the West. It's no longer about technology transfer. I mean, if you look at China, for example, China versus the US, maybe a decade or 2 decades ago, certainly you would think the US is leading in all ways. But right now, a lot of us in other parts of Asia, we're very closely connected to China, whether is it by blood or by business or trade. And we do know that right now they are, in terms of technology, in terms of using AI, data, blockchain, everything, they're really leading the world, robotics and all that. So I think that in a way has kind of like fed into this feeling that, hey, maybe I don't really think I can learn anything much from a company in the Western market coming into Asia, for instance. So that could have contributed to that.
That's really good.
Yeah.
If I may comment on that, right,
Yeah.
Kevin, on the question, I think for especially US-based companies looking at Asia, to simply put it, why is it so difficult? I think it's because Asia is so diversified. As opposed to US, is rather homogenous. So it's kind of, you can have sort of a one-size-fit-all kind of a marketing campaign and all that. But in Asia, I mean, you just count the numbers, right? Languages, how many languages there, right? Just in India, I don't know how many languages plus dialects. It's just incredible. And then culturally, it's so different. It's really hard to get the messaging or the content right for a specific market that doesn't make you look like you don't know the culture or you don't know the marketplace.
And it's
so that's why it's hard.
Because
it's too diverse.
I think a lot of Western companies also don't apply the whole concept of, because social media has, when it comes to digital marketing and social media, it's very culture based, right? Like trends, the way your content is, the way you digest video, and within just even the Chinese community alone. Just let's not talk about India, Singapore, China alone. Eastern China is very different than Western China. There's so much, provinces within China that have their own culture,
Yes, exactly.
And I think you nailed it, Jeremy. Even within US, right? We have like Texas and we have the South, or, New York. But at the end of the day, we're still very similar in the way we do things. And I mean, if you come to the US, even look and feel, right? Very similar. Suburban area, the city, you have your Starbucks, McDonald's. It's not extremes, right? So that's a good point. So, Eldrick, is your audio working?
It is. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yay.
I can hear you. Yep. Thoughts, Eldrick, on this? Because you do a lot of content writing on Medium. So, love to hear your opinion when it comes to content,
I'll probably not spend too much time or have my focus on the instrumental part of it. But I think what's important is just look at your own behavior, how you engage with your devices and the apps that's in your devices. You will find the answers. So first off, regardless of how you look, what you speak, where you are geographically, I do think that's not that important to me. What's really important is the common denominator, which is human nature, is the same. So if you can recognize that, you can see how people are doing very well in the media or the medium of the choice. Because I'll put it this way. Success gets my attention. If you're not in front of me, I cannot see you. My eyes are in front. I won't turn back. I mean, so if you want people to know what you're doing, if you want to disseminate knowledge, if you want to share more, you have to be in front. You can't be behind. Now, that can be in many ways, but the best way is to be someone of service and be someone who is highly skilled. So you can share your skills and you can share your perspectives or thought leadership, however they want to package it. And I think that's important. However, it's social media or social publishing or whether it's vocal or written, it doesn't matter anymore. You just have to recognize that everyone else is trying their best to be a better person when they get to bed tonight compared to when they wake up this morning. And the cycle repeats itself every day. You may not find someone who will tell you straight in the face that I want to be better today and tomorrow compared to yesterday. But you can never find someone who will tell you, I don't mind being worse off than today.
Yeah.
Like
Same with companies, yeah.
It's impossible. It's that equation will fail. Arithmetically, it might work, but in reality, it might fail. So I think the key word here really is the marketing piece of it, regardless of where you are, whether it works for you. And I have one comment on what we usually say, and that is we need to be consistent in our work. So we develop a presence online and people can see. There's too much emphasis on consistency, which is a good thing. But I would like to circle back to another variable that we always forget, and that's we. You got to find out who you are. You got to find out, based on where you are today, how you can be in front of people so they will pay attention to you.
Yeah.
For instance, if you are a sales guru, you talk about how to get sales and overcome sales objections, you put it anywhere online, people will listen to you. But if you are a very successful sales professional and you want to talk about operational efficiencies, I scratch my head. What are you trying to do? So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot more depth if we want to get into the tactical parts of how we can be more successful in the act of marketing and as a marketer. But in general, the human nature part of it will stick. If you're not successful, you're not going to get my attention. It can be relative, it can be absolute. So that's what I think. In a very simple way.
Yeah, I think Aldrich raised a good point about certain commonalities across places or locations, and being valuable, being of service, building trust with your audience, and I think in a way it's about tribes, forming tribes, communities of interest, not so much along ethnic lines. I mean, although there's to some extent there is still some of that, because we do live in neighborhoods with people whom we see on a day-to-day basis. Our families will inculcate certain cultures down to us, our communities. But beyond that, also there are interests that could bond people together. For instance, a lot of people, whether in Asia, the East Asia, the Middle East, or the West, they may have a common interest in a specific topic, say, like, I don't know, playing golf or K-dramas, so something, or wine tasting, and kind of like finding that tribe just so that you can unite with them, because you are also an insider in that market. So I think being able to show your affiliations that, hey, I am also just like one of you. I know what you're going through. I have a family with a teenager at home, or I live in a government apartment or a flat, or I live in a condominium, or I'm facing these issues. I think that if we're able to use that commonality to connect, I think this could be a good way to kind of transcend the distance or the ethnic or national boundaries that may exist. I mean, after all, I mean, one of the things I noticed with COVID-19 and the pandemic is that with technologies like Zoom and StreamYard and all that, you can be anywhere around the world, and it's almost like you're in the same room, right? Just talking to each other. So I think the old barrier of distance is really truly gone. And then with 5G and all this going in future, you can use your mobile phone and you can talk to somebody in real time anywhere around the world. So I think the thing is, how do you build that bond with people of interest, with similar interest to you? It can be B2B or B2C, and that could help to transcend those boundaries.
No, you brought an interesting point because you brought in Korean drama, right?
Yes.
Squid Game.
So,
Squid Game.
yeah, this is very interesting because you see it here in the States, right?
Yes.
If I look back to when I was in my teenage years in the U.S., I mean, I stood out like a sore thumb because I live in the Midwest. There was not much diversity, and I could never imagine high school people interested in a Korean pop band when I was growing up. But now, even in the US, I mean, BTS is number one.
Yes.
My son, they're like 7 and 9. They're singing the songs, and they don't, I mean, they're very Americanized, but at the same time, I mean, they have a Asian dad. So, I mean, they accept that, but I am seeing like their little friends who are 100%, Caucasian family, and they are very into BTS poster, BTS Happy Meal. It's interesting because I never thought it would come to a Midwest, Kansas City, still very Midwest town. It's getting more diverse here, but at the same time, I can't see like, nowadays Asian superheroes. You see it in shift in the media first, right? Always the cultural shift. So you're starting to see it in your movies, commercials. Every U.S. commercial now has a token Asian. Used to, I never see it. Even if you watch The Matrix, there's an Asian character. So there's a lot of you see a sprinkle of Asian. Used to, we were more, we might be in the kung fu movies, or in from a Hollywood perspective, we might be like the guy that doesn't speak very. We're never the guy with the beautiful women at the end, or the hero figure, right? In the U.S., right? I'm just gonna be blunt, right? So like growing up, besides Bruce Lee, there was not much, Asian heroes or the Asian person that speaks fluent English and, is the hero of the movie, right? But you're seeing that cultural shift, and I think because of pandemic, because of technology, it's like Eldrick said, I think the younger generation don't see as much color, as much diversity. Doesn't matter if they're in the U.S. or vice versa. Like Asians might look at U.S. people different than used to. It was maybe, hey, like Walter, you brought up a good point. Used to, we were the leaders in technology, right, here in the West. But now it's almost like, hey, it's equal playing field.
Yeah, correct.
And the younger generation, they get it. There's still older generation that still live in the past, but hey, it's 2022 and we're very connected. Like right now, I'm the only one in the US, you guys are in Singapore, and we're doing this live show. So when it comes to marketing, we were talking about East and the West. But I think it's more important than ever, if you're out there watching this show, is don't just understand your area or your zip code. You have to start looking at your brand, the way you market your business, as a global marketing strategy. Because when you're on LinkedIn posting Facebook, it's not just the people in the US that's looking at it, or vice versa. It's not only Singapore people, right? Like I can see Eldrick's post too, and that's how I met Eldrick in Germany, because I was like, man, these guys are in Asia, but this guy Eldrick, he posts a lot of content, and it keeps popping up, and that's how I connected with Eldrick, it's been almost a year and a half ago, right? Or 2 years. So, I think it's so important. I think we are so focused on like the economy being just one part, our neighborhood or where we're close to, but nowadays there's business and opportunities to be made, especially if you're looking at currency, where it's going, technology with crypto and everything. It's more of a global economy.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Walter talked a bit about culture, K-drama and all that. I think it's a good time to be an Asian. I think finally we're getting some form of representation after so long, right? From when Bruce Lee till now, it's been 40, 50 years. I'm not sure with the math, but a lot has changed, right? Culturally, movies wise, with Crazy Rich Asians, and then with Parasite winning the Oscars. Never saw that coming. Nobody did. And now this whole rise in this Asian, even with Shang-Chi, all these things, you get more than just only Kung Fu associated with Asians. Yeah. But let's look at the economics of things. Asia is important because let's just look at China. Let's just look at retail. I believe there's a McKinsey report somewhere that states that 50% of luxury spend is going to come from China alone. I think the next 5 years or so. And that's huge. That's huge. So you cannot ignore the economics and the strength of Asia in terms where business is. I mean, just look at retail. So and ironically, because we are more connected, we are also becoming more sensitive or more divisive at the same time. Okay. Case in point, like I mentioned, I think I mentioned a little bit. China, as we all know, is a minefield now when it comes to marketing. Right, the basic things that you will do wrong and you will have to apologize to the Chinese. That has happened before with some of the stars in the US. I think you guys know who. The big thing is that do not mention Republic of China, ROC, or we call Taiwan, as a country, independent country. That will offend a lot of the Chinese in China, mainland China. So that's the one big no-no that you have to watch out for, definitely. And the second thing is, I think the netizens in China are also rather sensitive now these days, especially when you try to stereotype Chinese on ads. Yeah, there was a certain model, there was a certain brand that, and
the slit
news,
eye
right?
thing, is it all?
Yes, yeah, all the stereotypical thing. Even the model was affected, right? So there is now people are getting more sensitive, and I think that might not necessarily be a bad thing, because in the past we would have think that Asians or even Chinese are more docile, submissive. They won't air up their views, but that's not happening now, right? With Asia gaining strength, I think Asians are also being more vocal now, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But these are like, two of the examples I just want to bring up in terms of what to watch out for when marketing to the East, especially in China. Very, very sensitive topics, and that would really be the basic to watch out for.
So Jeremy, you brought up the whole dorsal and not being more focal. So in America, you have a lot of very young influencers, and it seemed like part of social media has accelerated young people that are not in school now and that are trending the entrepreneur game and starting their businesses. You see it on LinkedIn. Is that the same apply in Asia?
I think so. Especially you talk about live stream and things like that.
I mean, the whole mindset, like Gen Z, young entrepreneurs who stop going to school and just starting their business.
We can't stop going to school.
Okay.
Parents won't allow.
So that's a huge difference, right? Because in America, there's this one, the whole job market, is kind of, everyone knows about it, a lot of people aren't working and there's been challenges, but there's also less people are going to college, because they feel, hey, if I can make, millions on YouTube, then why don't I be a YouTuber, right? So there's a good amount of influencers that are very young, even on LinkedIn, Now, I don't know how much they make. None of us do, right? But they appear to the younger generation who watch it and go, oh man, I can do the same. They've become role models just like athletes, right? So I was just wondering if that's the same in Asia, and it seemed like it's not.
No, personally speaking, I would like my kids to be like, Ryan's toy review, make millions of dollars, but that will only come after they do their studies. So it will never be the first priority.
So,
I feel I don't know about other parts of Asia, but in Singapore here, our teens are very pragmatic. I mean, they're very level-headed. They don't have any illusions or delusions of grandeur about becoming an influencer and all that. In fact, our influencer scene here is pretty weak. It's quite bad actually. Many of the influencers, and I do know them personally on Instagram, they need to have a day job. They have to like struggle to pay bills and all that. We don't really see that as an occupation. So it's always kind of like a sideline. And only the very few top ones can make it. But the rest, I think they know that going into this online space and trying to do like live selling and do the there's only a few people who can do it and who can succeed, because not everyone has that gift, that ability to kind of engage with an audience on the long term. So I don't really see that as something that is that a lot of the youths or teenagers are going into these days. I'm not sure about other parts of Asia, but I see also there's a bit of that like that wariness or that tiredness of the whole social media thing. Is like it's and they are kind of like relishing going offline, in fact. So like,
oh wow,
meeting up their friends or chatting with them face to face, rather than going into Instagram or TikTok and building an audience with like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of followers so they can monetize it. That doesn't really seem to be the case. It's just the very extreme, the very few, but majority don't really see that as the pathway. At least that's what I see.
Okay.
I agree. I agree with what Walter mentioned. To say that I become a successful influencer and I can monetize it means that I can get off the academic track. It's something that I think just the three of us here, based in Singapore, it's something that is weirdly uncomfortable. I'll put it that way, and it's not, and it has nothing to do with the stereotype about Asians that we want to do well in school. So take that aside. We are natural suckers we are natural suckers for success. We want to be successful. Everyone around us wants us to be successful, either in a very stressful way, in a benign way, or in a laissez-faire way, let's say. And I think it's more pervasive in us, in the Asian DNA, to pursue a portfolio of success. Meaning, I'm an A student. I need not be the top student, but I'm an A student. I need not be the top athlete in the sport that I choose, but I represent my school, I represent the country. And then if I do social media, I might not be able to be the top influencer, but I am one. So you can see that we develop parallels and we look at it from a portfolio perspective. And I think that's the reason we believe a lot in working hard. Okay, maybe not we, but me. I believe a lot in working hard because these are things that are important.
We do.
We do.
Okay.
You.
Yeah. So these are the things that are important to us. It's really nothing to be honest, pure play academic success is rather rare to find. And as with all arenas for competition, the hierarchy will always be there. everyone races to the top of the choice, right? Whether it's studies, sports, content creation, influencing, writing, unless you make it to the top 5% of the arena of your choice, chances are you're not going to earn a lot in terms of the monetary aspect. You're not going to get a lot of attention. So that's just the way it is. The mechanics of life, I mean.
Yeah. But I think to add on to that, I see that entrepreneurship is still a thing. I mean, technopreneurship, looking at building something that can serve the audience, identifying a market niche. That is something that's still very vibrant here in Asia, and not just Singapore, across whole of Southeast Asia. We're seeing all kinds of amazing startups with
Yeah.
solutions going way beyond just what Gojek and Grab has come up with, looking at serving very specific niche markets wherever they are, even farming rural communities. They already have all kinds of tech solutions to kind of help them, and they are also adopting blockchain technology. I mean, cryptocurrency, of course. NFTs are now the rage. Everybody's talking about it. Gary Vaynerchuk is going gaga over it, and all his disciples will kind of talk about it as well. But I think beyond that, the way in which technology can solve problems is something that I think the younger generation are aware of, and they are putting their heads to it. They're trying to crack their heads to try and solve these very, very hyper niche, hyper local kind of problems. So I think the maybe one as sort of like a long-winded way to answer the question about Western companies trying to penetrate Asia and finding the difficulties, that I think nowadays the very big suite kind of problems there are already solutions. There is a a subscription model for every business out there, right? I mean, beyond software as a service, you have the travel, you have rooms, you have live streaming, buying, and all that. So I think it's kind of the more niche issues that are very specific to people living in crowded cities, where there's traffic congestion, where there is pollution, and where there is difficulty to get access to certain public goods, for instance. So I see that those will be the opportunities in Asia, where if companies are able to crack that, then I think that could be something that they could look at.
No, I agree. I think it's across the board because subscription model here in the U.S. is extremely popular. I was just looking at fitness products, right?
Yeah.
Like cardio, and in my mind, I was like, it doesn't make sense. I have to pay $1,000 after I buy it. I still have to pay another $30 a month.
Yes. Yeah.
So like all the new like cardio equipment, everything. The Oculus, for example.
Yes.
You pay $400 USD, and then now the games are almost like $60 a piece. So in a subscription model. So it adds up very quickly. And it's interesting because as we're talking about Asia, the East and the West, and marketing as a whole, it goes back to what Eldrick said. I think it comes back to understanding human nature and the way we work as human beings and the way we think. And if you understand that, you can work within a lot of cultures because there are things that you can hone in on. But then when you're talking about excelling in branding or penetrating like a specific market, I do think the culture does apply, right? Like what people are buying, especially retail. I think it's very challenging to market a retail product when the ethnic groups, the way they consume is very different, right?
Yeah.
And I am seeing it the other way, vice versa too. Even Asian markets coming to America, and that they struggle as well because America's very much, there's a lot of entertainment is a lot more lax. Even, I mean, you scroll through LinkedIn, a CEO in the U.S. Talks very different than a CEO in Asia, right? So the content alone is very different, So where do you see social media before we end tonight? Because you said the young people in Asia, actually a lot of them are turned off by social media and coming off of these platforms. Where do you see the future?
I think it's going to. Social media is going to become like news, like a newspaper, like the information feed. But it may not be the place where people are going to socialize. So it could be they consume what they see on their feed, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or even Telegram if they subscribe to a few different channels on Telegram. But when they interact, they're going to interact more in private groups, whether it's a WhatsApp group or Telegram group or Discord group. They will take more of that conversations offline. The commenting behavior, I notice it will be quite different. So instead of writing long thought through comments on posts, they may just write very short comments. It may even be a bit mysterious or sometimes even snarky, with the intention of drawing attention or just for the fun of it. But I see that the private channels, very specific to topics of interest, would be where they may spend more time in when it comes to social media. But of course, having said that, ephemeral kind of short-term content will still be there. I mean, people will they may shoot a short video of themselves, for instance, but instead of sharing it with the whole world, they may just share with their group of friends, for instance. So that could be one of the behaviors I see going ahead.
So this is Meta a conversation in Asia?
Meta.
Actually, a lot of people are already. I mean, a lot of the kids are already in Meta. It's just a different form of Meta, right? Without the goggles,
Fortnite,
and the earphones, Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox.
Roblox, yeah, correct.
So it's just that the way in which it's not 3D or it's not using the goggles and the VR thing. But people are already living in their own metaverses. And I would say the adults also are kind of living in their own metaverses. It's just as a different, it's grouped around communities. It's the news feed, right? Your news feed is kind of governing you, shaping you, and it's your view of the world actually is what you see, what you consume online. And the more you consume those type of content, as we all know how the algorithm works, the more they're going to feed you that type of content. So your worldview will increasingly be shaped by how machines kind of shape your metaverse, so to speak.
It's very interesting because I kind of have both worlds, right? I grew up in a very Asian home, but at the same time, I went to school in the U.S. and have American friends and different things. But it's very interesting to see where the metaverse, how it's going to adapt as we go into this new web landscape in the next 10 years and how it applies to different cultures. Because, like in the U.S., I would say, I don't want to use the word delusional, but in a way, the younger folks, the way they view the world sometimes is so influenced by social media and trends. And it's listening to you, Walter, being a father of a teenager, it seemed like it's a little different with teenagers in Asia. They still are, not that, you have to go to school, there's routes for different things, but it seemed like they still, the education aspect, it seemed like the more social media is loud in Asia, the more almost the young people are taking a step back and wanting to connect in the real world. And then in the US, it's the opposite. It's almost like the louder social media becomes, the more we are consumed and lost in this world of social media, right? So the direction is interesting, how two different cultures being influenced by, algorithm, and it goes back to, I think, the mindset, right? We have so much freedom here in the West, and the way we are growing up to, hey, chase your passion, do what you love, and that's why you see there's a lot of innovation in the U.S. as well, which is a positive. You have like Tesla and all these things, but then you're seeing, as China is rising up in the tech space and innovation, it's a different way of going about it. So when it comes to being a marketer, the perspective, I feel, is going to be very interesting as this world becomes more connected. The more, and with all these tools and technology available, where marketing will be 10 years is going to be very interesting to me.
So for me, just 2 points before we round up. I agree with what Walter said about social media being more of a news source, but increasingly because we know how the algorithm works, more so now we're more aware than in the past. We will seek interest groups, or we call tribes, or we call communities in different either Discord or Telegram. We will seek these interest groups and still maintain our sanity there on things that we think we do not want the algorithm to affect us. So that's one thing. That's one point I want to make. The other point which I want to make really is the talk about technology. How marketing is going to be different for the East is actually on technology, or rather the perception of country of origin. Why do I say that? 10, 20 years ago, we would think that, well, everything from US is good, the best, the greatest, or maybe sometimes Japanese brands, consumer electronics specifically. But now, Asia brands are just as good, or if not better, or perceived to be just as good, or perceived to be better. Right, just look at all the things like, for example, what Xiaomi is rolling out, right? Even like things like a car manufacturing, China is doing a lot of that, autonomous cars, and a lot of these. The point is that the Asians' mind about US brands versus Asian brands has shifted. Asian is not necessarily bad, right? And US brands is not necessarily top of the line, most premium, or the most technology advanced. So when that shifts, then it's kind of like level playing field. You have to market harder in a way for the brands in the West. But while in the East, we no longer know, we are more receptive to buying things that are from Asia, that originates from Asia, is created in Asia, right? So this whole quality and brand perception has also shifted. So that's is going to affect marketing definitely as well. So those are the 2 points I just want to add.
Yeah.
And that's great food for thought, tonight as well. And
I think there's to add on to Jeremy's point, there seems to be a shift. For China, we all know that it's a technology giant and all that, but there's also a cultural element to.
Yes, the Guo Chao thing, right?
Yeah.
Identify
so there's a big wave of interest in all things Chinese now. In Singapore, for example, Chinese cuisine, Chinese food, Chinese snacks. Chinese brands have been opening up here. And there seems to be a surge in interest in China music. Chinese music. Previously, the top artists, Chinese speaking or Chinese singing artists were from Taiwan or Hong Kong, right? But these days, it's kind of mainland China itself where the top artists are emerging.
Yeah.
And we're not just, so we're also looking at fashion. Fashion.
Well, I can't even watch Hong Kong movies now. They're so bad.
Yeah,
the production values, everything is all shifting to China. Entertainment wise, it's all better. Chinese.
So there seems to be a shift also. It's not just about the technology, but it's also about the cultural component that seems to have changed. And let's not forget India as well. India is also Asia, but there has been so many things going on there. It's a huge market. There is also a lot of excitement in there. A lot of brands are emerging, and I think the younger Indians these days, they also know that in order to compete, they have to differentiate themselves. So we see that more Indian companies are rising up. No longer just the back office of the world, but they are kind of like forging their brands, and they are growing and asserting themselves as well.
And same thing if you look at even the shift Japan and Korea.
Oh yeah.
Like from
Definitely.
growing up, I always remember Japan was the fashion leaders, even cars and technology, and now Korea is kind of shifting, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's definitely in the world we live in. Even here in U.S., used to you would never buy a Kia or a
Oh yeah.
Hyundai. Supposed to be like if you buy a Hyundai 10 years ago, it's gonna break down, But now, I mean, we see it in our U.S. movies. We're very big on like a lot of people drive Kias and Hyundais, you know. So it's interesting because marketing has played such a big part in influencing the products we buy, our everyday. And part of Bottoms Up Perspective before we end tonight is really just sharing our perspective, but at the same time, having more of a cultural awareness when you're on social media because we're a more and more connected world than ever. So even the type of content you're putting out, it's good to think about, hey, we're not, I understand, hey, my target audience is in the US, therefore, I'm just going to put out US based content. But hey, I challenge you, connect with other people outside of your hometown, your world, because even myself, I grew up in the US. It's nice to still connect with Eldrick, Jeremy, Walter, and just hear their perspective so you have more awareness of, here in the US, you hear the news. It's very much a bias, of course. And same thing, if you listen to news only in Asia, Singapore, it's going to be biased towards their culture, right? It's good to go listen to news somewhere else. Like for me, I grew up, I'm born in Hong Kong, so I've been blessed with my mom still listens to Asian news and different things. So I get to hear the Asian side of things. Like if you went and listened to Asian news, the way they talk about the pandemic is totally different from U.S. news, and so it's good to differentiate, like, hey, it's a global issue and everyone has their opinions, but it's good to take it all in and kind of make an
Your own judgment.
educated decision versus like, oh, I just hear my news in Kansas City and that's the truth and that's the be all of what's going on in the world. And I think with marketing, you have to do the same thing because
Yes.
no longer like listening is no longer US is the leader in all things marketing. You have to look at 10 years down the road. What if things shift? Are you aware of the other cultures out there? It's like you said, what if the back office of India is no longer the back office?
Yeah.
So just be aware of everything. Perspective matters in the journey called life. And the way we view things is so important. So thank you, Walter, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And it's great to hear your insight. And
Thank you.
Walter, for those who are still on, and if they weren't on earlier, remind them again how they can connect with you, follow you, and tell them a little about Cooler Insights.
Well, thank you so much. For those of you who are online, if you want to connect with me, you can look for me on LinkedIn. Just type my name, Walter Lim. You'll be able to find me. You can visit my company's website. That's coolerinsights.com. COOLER Insights, INSIGHTS.com. Or you can just follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Just look for Cooler Insights on any of these platforms, and you'll be able to find my company. And we do regularly share content, at least once or twice a week, on insights on social media marketing, content marketing, SEO, as well as other developments in the digital marketing world.
All right. Thank you, Walter. Appreciate you.
you.
Well, have a good night and have a good morning as well.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All
Thank you, guys.
See you.
See you in the next one.
See ya.
Bye bye.